these families in the neighborhood. Oh, no media. So I had a problem with just the media, the way they, enlightened black folk and a lot of other things. But I've seen that before Donald Trump, before Joe Biden. Yes, and I wanted to add that in there.
Absolutely. Yeah, man, that's yeah, I mean, and when what you were saying, it makes me think about certain individuals who are part of the media, because when you're saying, hey, while I was a kid, and I'm in my 50s, right? While I was a kid, you're right, there were a lot of negative images in the media, right? Until what? Until the 80s, when you get your boy Bill Cosby, you got the Cosby Show. Now we got a different image, but what happens to that gentleman? Right now, he's got to go through a situation where he has to explain away, certain things. I don't know if the man is guilty or not, but I do know that Hollywood isn't the most innocent industry. You know what I'm saying? It's not the most upright, righteous industry either. So there's a whole lot going on in Hollywood to just try to stereotype or even, villainize, one man. But we see it happens. You know what I mean? Because it seems like there has to be this. We got to maintain this image.
Absolutely, and talking about Hollywood,
Right.
I just wanted to touch on something, and this is very, very important. And for all the young folk out there, we do try to keep everything PG 13. We don't curse, we don't use bad language and things of that nature on our podcast. However, so bear with me, everybody. The P. Diddy trial.
Right.
Let me take a deep breath, because I've read some stuff that I don't even want to repeat. But based on this trial, P. Diddy is facing charges of sex trafficking, racketeering, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Those are his official charges. Now, everything that I've been hearing, based on the transcripts, some violence. I don't condone no type of violence, no type of domestic violence. I don't condone any of that. Some freaky stuff. Woo! I can't even say some of the stuff.
Right.
I think Cassie and him was some doing some freak offs. I'm not advocating for Diddy. I'm not here to prosecute Diddy.
Right.
But I will say this, and I want to say this about everybody that's on trial. You are innocent until proven guilty. I just want to add that in there. I am not advocating for P. Diddy. I'm not saying free him. I'm not saying lock him up. I'm saying let's go through the whole trial.
Let's go through the trial.
Whatever the jury say, whatever the judge say, that's it. And I want to also put out, based on everything that we've read, Cassie wasn't no angel.
She ain't innocent.
I'm sorry to say she was a part of this too. So to put it all on Diddy, no, I will say that she wasn't no angel, because some of the stuff she was doing also, that money and fame is addictive, and she was a willing participant. And
it was all good for a minute.
And you notice none of these charges, no rape or sexual assault is in there. None of that's in there. So she volunteered. Now, I get the whole, domestic violence and things like that. And once again, we do not condone any type of domestic violence at all. We condemn it. Don't do it. We in California, domestic violence, you get to call the cop, you going to jail. Right? We'd lose our jobs.
Not even my wife.
Yeah, me neither. We'd go to jail. So don't do it. We're not advocating for it. However, you've been with this man for 10 years. 10 years.
But look, this is how they're flipping that, right? They're saying that's a sign of the fact that she was psychologically and emotionally abused. They're saying that is a symptom of a woman who's being abused, is the fact that she cannot separate herself from the abuse. So even in that regard, they're using that as evidence against him. And I'll tell you another thing that I just kind of pulled up a minute ago is one of his former employees who got immunity to testify.
Mm-hmm.
So he's obviously singing like a songbird, you know what I mean? Without any, with immunity. That doesn't sit very well. That doesn't weigh well for my man on trial. He's facing an uphill battle. I want to get back to something though, because you mentioned something about violence, right? And we see on tape, and tapes don't tell the whole story, right? Tapes don't tell everything, but we do see on tape a certain level of violence, domestic violence there. He's not on trial for domestic violence, but we certainly see that within that video of him in that hotel hallway and her trying to go to the elevator and leave whatever they had going on. But I think folks who know that this guy is a guy who kind of wants to tote the line between celebrity and the streets, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Right? So he's been implicated in a lot of different cases of violence, so that's not necessarily out of the realm of reality either for that guy. I'm not saying we see on what the tape says. I'm not saying he's a domestic abuser, but he is a guy who is on the cusp of having ties to violence.
Mm-hmm.
You know what
Absolutely.
I mean? So he's facing an uphill battle.
Yeah, and it's alleged, even in that footage of the hotel, they say they fight all the time. They was fighting inside the room. They was going back and forth. I do believe that Cassie, I do believe they men like that. They was doing them freak offs. And like I said, I've never been a part of a freak off. Let me just.
I don't want to be a part of it.
I don't either. So I'm glad I've never been to any of those parties. Never been invited to any of those parties. And I personally don't know anyone that ever been to one of those parties. But what I'm getting at is that some people enjoy that stuff, and it's hard for me to believe you was with. Diddy is almost a billionaire, pretty much a billionaire. Mm-hmm. But you with this man for 10 years, this billionaire, and you couldn't leave. You didn't want to leave. That's hard. That's just hard for me to get. Now,
well, she was getting back to the issue of violence. Like she was dating Kid Cudi for a minute, and it's alleged that Puffy had put out there that he was going to have Kid Cudi's car blown up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So maybe she did try to walk away. I don't know. There certainly seems like there was a point where she was trying to separate herself from him. She was dating another guy. You know what I'm saying? That was a huge deal. I guess my man didn't want to lose face, so he was like, nah. You know what I'm saying? You know who I am? You know who I am, right? You know I got muscle, right? Yeah, man, they're saying he was threatening to blow my man's car up, because he was messing with his girl. So, dude is not innocent right now. He's got a lot of dirt on his hands.
Absolutely, he actually got a lot of dirt on his hands. I'm not here to convict him. I'm not saying he's guilty.
Right.
He's innocent or proven guilty.
Absolutely.
The only point I want to make is Cassie is no angel by far. And
I would agree with that.
And based on some of these transcripts, it was one guy, what they call him, but I can't think of it. I just had it, but Diddy had her have relations and had urination in her mouth and all type of stuff.
Stop that.
Like I'm trying to keep it as PG as possible, but some of that stuff, that was kind of mutual.
Right. I agree there. I agree. It was certainly mutual. It started off mutual for sure. Mm-hmm. She was definitely a part of the whole thing. But I do remember hearing a guy saying on TV, like, if you're going to be a juror in this trial, you're going to have a strong stomach.
Yep.
And that says there's going to be a lot of some real details coming out that explain in detail what was going on behind closed doors. But
exactly.
It would be interesting to be on that jury.
Woo.
It would be interesting, but I'm kind of torn because I'm kind of torn.
Yeah, I don't think I want to be on that jury.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I can handle a lot of stuff, but
that's a lot.
Y'all talking about some freaky, zeeky stuff that I never even You talking about you going number one in somebody's mouth? You can't even think of nothing like that. So and it's tough. But I'm looking forward to be reading these transcripts every day. And then speaking about P. Diddy, Shannon Sharp.
Right. Right.
Now he's actually oh my goodness. And I'm not every man is innocent till proven guilty, but now he's getting hit with a lawsuit for sexual assault with a ex girlfriend. I don't want to say girlfriend, but an ex partner, an ex friend that they do stuff behind closed doors with. And I want all the listeners. We are PG-13. We trying to keep it as clean as possible. But hey, this is real stuff going on. We can't. I'm not making this up. You can see we're not making this up.
No. You can go on the internet and find all of this.
$50 million lawsuit. Woo! She trying to break my man.
I hope it's not true.
I hope it's not true either.
I hope it's not true. The good thing I would say is that at least, like, he's on this kind of like administrative leave right now from ESPN, right? They haven't fired him. I think they're waiting to hear, the details of these allegations. You know what I'm saying? It's easy to jump to conclusions, and what we've done for a long time, when you hear about, potential rape cases, like, we already want to convict and say, but I think that hand's been overplayed, and I'm kind of in the corner now, like. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. Let me say that.
Absolutely. And now this one, a lot of details haven't came out of it. It's just saying, hey, it's consensual. He's saying it's consensual. She trying to blackmail him, and she's saying one time he just did what she's accusing that he did. And that goes with, if that's your girlfriend, your friend, your plaything, your late night creeper, whatever you guys or whatever you do, if that's your thing on the regular, where was the middle part from consensual to non-consensual?
From what I'm hearing is that there's some accusations of verbal abuse. Okay. There's accusations of violence and threats of violence. And even saying he was going to kill her at one point in time. That's a good question. Like, where does it go? Because it was clearly consensual.
Absolutely.
At one point in time. But how does that go from clearly consensual between two adults, even though she was young, younger and he's older, but whatever. She's 18. She's old enough to make her own decisions. She's 20, I think, when it happened. How does it go from consensual to non-consensual?
Exactly, and based on her accusation, and this is what's troubling for me. I'm like I said, every man, every person is innocent until proven guilty. But how does he do this twice in 3 months apart, and you didn't report it the first time, and you went to go see him again? Is this certain things just don't add up to me? And like I said, I don't know what any person on this planet do behind closed doors in their bedroom. I don't know.
It's not my business.
Not my business. I don't ask, don't tell me. That's my take. But how do something like that happen twice in a 3-month period, and you don't report it the first time and you go back again? It's just a disconnect. If he did it, he did it. Call the cops, press